C News Network. Gary Allen with you with Main Street. This is our first show for the new year. Hope you will enjoy it. I hope you've all been having a great year so far. 2021 hopefully will be better than the previous year. We've got some great shows coming up for you. I hope you join us on Main Street every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. I think in February we're going to move the show to 4 p.m. for a number of reasons. But today we have a great guest joining us, and I'll introduce him to you in just a couple of seconds. But I just want to tell you about the show coming up next week right here on the Miami C News Network. That's a clever way of putting it, I suppose. Is going to be Mr. Jeffrey Marks. He's a walking encyclopedia of knowledge about Hollywood. The networks call him about actors, actresses, show business people in general. He has done it all. He's an author, producer, director. He's a very dear friend of mine, as the gentleman who is coming on this show today. So let's get to it. My very first guest on the 2021 show for this year is a gentleman you've seen on Law and Order. That's where you saw him. He was on Dynasty. He was also on The Sopranos as young Carmine. He did SVU, Law and Order. He did Criminal Minds. He's done many, many movies and television shows that you have seen over the years. He's also done shows, work with some of the top actors there is in the business. He's also a dear, dear friend of mine. Would you please welcome to Main Street, Mr. Ray Abruzzo?
Alan who? Who is it? Alan, I don't know any Alan. Gary Allen? I don't. Oh, Gary.
Yes.
Hey.
Hello, Ray.
It's my good friend, Gary Allen. Hey.
You did that the very first time you did my late night show back about 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, tell the whole audience I'm repeating myself and that I only have one good joke.
Well, you do have a lot of great jokes. It's just that you tell them off air. And we'll be doing it. How are you from your palatial palace in California?
It is. It's. I don't think it's a palatial palace. I think it's a palace, but not quite palatial. Yeah, it's like the chateau that even outshone Versailles, where the king lived.
How far are you from the ranch where you work with animals and stuff?
5 minutes door to door.
Yeah, because I know we're going to talk about your animal rights activism as well as your political event, which is very similar to mine because you're on Facebook all the time. But my dear friend, you look great. And
thank you.
And so I know you and I have a lot of Stephen Boschko stories, which we will get to eventually. If it wasn't for Stephen, neither one of us would have worked very much in Hollywood, as well as Robin Williams, who was great to me. How much has this COVID not only obviously it's taken productions down to a level of zero to a certain extent. Some are just getting back going now. Buddy of mine who's on The Young and the Restless, they started back about a month or 2 months ago. How much is the COVID restrictions hampered the business, and how much of this do you think is going to continue even after the all clear is given and we have this somewhat under control 6 months to a year from now?
Well, it completely shut down the business. I mean, 100% for months. Shut the business down. It did trickle back with some very strong restrictions. I haven't worked a day since the whole thing started. I worked right before it started, but then I haven't worked since the whole thing happened. So what is that? February, March. Yeah. Everything shut down. Now they had opened LA to some shows. Some shows were shooting with very strict restrictions. You'd get tested all the time. There were levels of protection. People on the set had the most. And now just this week, LA has exploded in the last 2 weeks with cases, and the hospitals are overflowing. So they've just completely shut down production again. So there's absolutely nothing happening right now.
What do you think is going to happen when things open up again? What sort of habits things that Ray did before the quarantine began, the distancing, social distancing, as well as wearing a mask? How much has your life changed, and what do you think you'll be taking with you as you move forward when things open up again? Or is it just going to be when it opens up again, you get back to what you were doing before?
It's not going to be normal. I mean, you just think of even the casual walk past the craft service table. I mean, that's part of your daily day on the set. Yes. You're on your way, Ray, come to the set, you walk by the craft service, you grab some M&Ms, all that's going to be gone. It's just going to be, that whole thing is going to be a different aspect. The people doing your makeup, there's no way people aren't going to be wearing masks and protective gear and shields and all that. As an actor, you won't be able to. But I'm going to be a long time. I bet another year before it's back to normal. But I'd say August, after we're all vaccinated, hopefully, and that there'll be some more semblance of order. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take when 70% of the population and everybody on a set has been vaccinated and has verification of vaccination. I think then we'll get back to some semblance of order. But I think even then there'll be social distancing. I think people are just going to be more conscious of germs. People aren't going to be grabbing M&Ms out of the same bowl anymore. Or, you know.
How about your normal life other than on set? Because I know what that's like on set. As you're right, you go to the craft table. I usually gain weight when I'm on set doing something. But how about the normal life for the people that are not in the business? I wonder what norms that they used to do that they can't do now because of COVID. Wonder what will change when the all clear is given that you can get back to some sort of normalcy. I wonder how our lives are going to change based on what we've been going through.
Well, I think, people are so anxious to get back to normalcy. I think, unfortunately, there might be a rush to get past some of the restrictions that we should be doing because people want to get back to normal so quickly. I was in Italy and I left Milan on February 13th. It was like 3 days later, Milan was the epicenter of the world, right? And then it hit New York, but Milan, right when I left, just exploded. And I had just been working there, and you literally kissed every single person on the set in the morning. Even then, when you came back from lunch, you kissed them again. You hugged them during lunch. That was such a part of the experience, And I can, being Italian might be the toughest thing to get back to after this thing.
I mean, because I'm a huggy person too. I'm Greek by nature, and I'm a huggy, love you, kiss and stuff like that. And that all stops.
Totally.
That literally is going to stop completely. Boy, that drink suddenly went from a dark, nice brown. Oh no,
it's just water. It's just water now.
Now it's water. It's water, as my good friend Glenn Hirsch says. Let's get on to the acting. You started your career in New York. And if I remember correctly, when I asked you what was your reasons for becoming an actor, roll that by me one more time.
When I first got bitten by the bug?
Yeah.
Freshman year in high school, 19. And the first week of school, they had like an extracurricular activities day. And all the classrooms were set up and, for different sports and chess. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was with three of my older friends. One was really tall. He was going to go for the basketball team. Another guy played the flute. He was going to go for the band. I didn't know what I was going to do. And walking down the hall together, and I saw a sign that said auditions today. And I looked in the auditorium, and the first row was filled with the prettiest girls in the school. And I said to my friends, you guys go ahead. I'm going in here. And I auditioned for the play, and I got the part. And literally, that was it. From that moment, the minute the curtain opened on that play, Inherit the Wind, and the play started with my character. I played Howard Blair, who was the young kid who testified in the trial. And the play opens with Howard Blair on stage by himself, my first play ever. And there's a big high school auditorium, big red velvet curtain opened, and I'm alone, and there's a spotlight. And it's just like, this feels pretty good.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. And then I just did everything I could from that, every play I could possibly do from that point on till now.
My uncle, who was a comedian on Miami Beach, Tubby Boots. And I said to him when I was a young kid, because I got a part as one of the three wise men in the school Christmas play.
Wow.
And
obviously no typecasting in the.
They knew it was a Jew, and they were going to say he gives gifts. So what, but we had a wooden stage, and when I would kneel down, and I'm not the most, as you know, I'm not graceful at all. I'm not athletic. I'm not like my brother Mike. I'm not graceful. And I knelt down, and you'd hear thud, and you'd hear laughter, and I went, oh, yeah, and that's the first time that when you get a reaction, that's it.
I'm going to go back then. I'm going to go back even before, if you don't mind. I'll go back before my first play. Since you talk about getting your first laugh, I was raised Italian Catholic. Obviously, I went to 16 years of Catholic school. 16
Oh,
years.
yes.
16. I'm fine though. I'm fine. So I don't know. I guess I was maybe 10 or 11, and I was in altar boy class to become an altar boy. So in that time, the mass was all in Latin, 100% in Latin. So you had to learn the entire mass in Latin as a little kid. So we had a priest that was very pious that was teaching us. Father Donnelly was his name. He moved very slow, and he just seemed like he had the spirit in him. I found out later he had a heart condition. That's why he moved so slow. He was just weak. But at one point there's a response, and the spirit be with you, and then your response is "Et cum spiritu tuo," which means "and the spirit also with you." And he wrote it on the board, and his back is to the classroom, and he says, "Et cum spiritu tuo," and I said, "What is that? God's phone number?" and all of a sudden, his hand stops on the blackboard. His back is to us. He just freezes, and I thought, "Oh my God!" And then all of a sudden, I saw his shoulders going, and I realized he was laughing. The class cracked up, and I thought, "No, that feels pretty good."
Yeah,
getting a laugh feels.
Every actor, every comedian, the first time they get a laugh, and then for me, you remember the first Family albums, the Kennedy albums?
Oh yeah.
And I started doing impressions in middle school because my mom got a hold of those things, and that's how it started for me. And my father always said, "Gary, you're never going to make a dime doing those impressions. Stick with the school. You'll be an airline pilot like me, blah, 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 blah." And that's what I wanted to be, was an airline pilot. And then I got my first paying gig, which is where I'm landing with you now. What was your very first paying gig?
My first paying gig was with New York City Opera, believe it or not.
Yeah.
A children's opera. I played a female gorilla in a children's opera for New York City Opera. Okay? You asked.
Okay.
I played a female gorilla named Pauline. I'm telling you about my life here, and you're laughing.
I know.
You're laughing at me.
Well, Christopher Walken would love this.
I think he was a gorilla too. But I had a big blue and white polka dot bow and full dress in a full gorilla thing, and we toured the schools, but it was literally New York City Opera. So that was my first job. Played Pauline, the female gorilla, in the toy shop with New York City Opera. Then I went on national tour with them in Barber of Seville, national tour with the opera. I played a deaf mute in an opera. Perfect, because I can't sing. But those are both true stories. Those are my two first paying union jobs. Yeah.
My union jobs were my first union. Well, the first time I got my card, I did a Tony Rome movie. And I had one line in it because I grew up with Beverly McDermott's son, Rick, and she would cast me in everything that she could. And she kept trying to tell my parents, he's an actor. He's not an airline pilot. He's an actor. Look at him. He's an actor. And Tubby used to tell my parents, he's an actor. He's a comedian. He's not an airline pilot. He's not. I don't want him at the controls of my 707 flying me anywhere.
Right. I could see you coming over the loudspeaker doing shtick, We're at 30,000 feet, You have to write your own jokes. I'm not
like
going
the
to write
Southwest,
jokes.
like the Southwest flight attendants.
Right, they love to do the shtick. Yeah.
Oh, they love to do it. You know that the Eastern Airlines, where my dad was a captain for like 35 years, they turned me down when I came home from the Air Force. Turned me down to be a flight attendant because the woman said Gary doesn't have a personality to deal with people.
Oh. Well, they were right about she was insightful.
Yeah. She was she said just because he brought a machine gun to the interview,
Yeah,
and my father was furious. He said, "What do you mean? My son Gary's the only one of the kids that has a personality. Of the 9 of them, I got one that's in the NFL. He crushes people to death."
You have 8 brothers and sisters?
Yeah, well, there's 6 of us still alive. Michael, my brother Mike Curtis, half brother. He just recently passed away. He played for the Baltimore Colts for
right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I know you're a Jets fan, so I'm not gonna.
No, I actually became a Packers fan once I played Vince Lombardi in the play.
Really?
I became just obsessed. I'm not a big football fan to begin with, but when I played Vince Lombardi, you just
He was an interesting man. He died way too young.
58 years old. 58 years old. You see those pictures of him, and you can't believe he's 58. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. By the way, did you see who passed away out in your world?
Tommy, right? Tommy
Yeah, Tommy
Lasorda.
Lasorda. Yeah, 93 years old.
I
I
had
met
a,
Tommy Lasorda once. Nasty guy.
oh, see,
Not friendly.
I had a fabulous experience with Tommy Lasorda.
Well, you're Ray Abruzzo.
I wasn't then though. This was 1989 when I was on Dynasty. We were brought down to Florida for a charity event, and it was during spring training. So we went to Vero Beach.
Vero Beach, yeah.
And we were invited by the Dodgers with Emma Sams and myself. So we're sitting in the Dodgers dugout for the game. And Tommy Lasorda is sitting next to us. And of course, I was a Yankee fan, and I had gone to the game wearing a Yankee hat. But now the Dodgers were playing the Mets, and I'm sitting in the dugout. My brother's a huge Met fan. So during one of the, I was going to say intermissions, in between.
You and Robin Williams, you don't know baseball. No?
You show people. I know about getting to first base, but anyway, so I go to the front.
Hey!
I call my brother.
That's your other career.
That's right. So I call my brother and I say, he's a huge Met fan. I say, you'll never guess where I am. He goes, I know where you are. You're sitting next to Tommy Lasorda in the dugout at spring training. My brother was watching the game, and they cut to me sitting next, and he said wearing a Dodger hat, which I still have somewhere, signed by Tommy.
I met him through Don Rickles. And Rickles said to me, he said, now be careful what you say. I said, why? He said, because Tommy can sometimes not be so friendly. And I said to him, I said, I'm a big baseball fan, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. He just shook his head. And I said, Mr. Lasorda, am I wrong? Or did you start your career in the Philly organization? He looked at me and he said, you had to bring that up. And he walked away. He just literally walked away. And I looked at Rickles and I said, what is it? He said, he doesn't talk about his time with the Phillies.
Wow. Who didn't know that, Gary? No, everybody. That's one of the first things they tell you when you're going to meet Lasorda. Don't bring up the Phillies.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's a tough break for me. It's a tough break for me. When did you, I know that you had tremendous success. You mentioned a very beautiful young woman, Emma Sands, who worked with you on Dynasty, but for people who don't know, who tomorrow somebody's cast and they show up on the set, what's it like being on the set when you come in as an actor, like on LA Law or Law and Order, and you're co-starring for the week? What is that like dealing with the other cast members that are there? Like if you go see our favorite show, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, you were on Chicago PD and working with Jason, and Jason's a great actor. What was that? What's it like for an actor to come in for a week?
It's one of the most underrated aspects of this business is the guest. I made a career guest starring on shows. I mean, besides being a regular on those shows, other shows you mentioned, mostly, I've done 80 guest star parts. I could get the feeling on a set 3 minutes into the makeup trailer, you get a vibe of what it's going to be like on that set. And some sets, they welcome you and they really do understand the word guest, and they make you feel like a guest in their home. I can give you NCIS. NCIS? Is that the oh my God.
Which one with
the original?
Mark Harmon?
Yeah, Mark Harmon. Harmon. Yeah, I did a guest on that show. I remember walking into the makeup trailer and like 5:30 in the morning, it's still dark. And I sit in the trailer and I thought, this is going to be a good day. Everybody was up and light, and it's all because, number one, on the call sheet, Mark Harmon is a wonderful guy and makes everybody feel welcome. But I've been on shows where the number one, I did one show, I'm not going to mention what it was. This is the scene I've done a million times. In the interrogation room at a police station, and I'm on one side of the table, and I've said this line. I call these specific kind of roles. This is the, I knew him, but I didn't kill him. That role.
There's your Christopher Walken impression again.
I didn't kill him, but I've done that line on, every police procedural where they bring you in, you either did it or you didn't.
Isn't that the line you did with Jason?
I think I might have had that line, which I have a great Jason story. That was one of the most amazing.
For those of you that don't know, Jason plays the lead detective in charge of the investigative unit on Chicago PD. Chicago's kind of a second home to me. And so
Okay,
you're
here's
playing
a great
opposite him.
story. It's gonna tie back into Emma Sam's on Dynasty.
Good.
Right after Dynasty ended, Emma was traveling around doing photography, and she found this little dog in New Orleans, Slidell, Louisiana, to be specific, that was crawled out from under a truck, dragging her legs behind her.
Oh,
So she curled up into Emma's arms. Brought it to the vet. The vet said she's 6 months old. The dog had a crushed hip, a broken leg, and a pellet in her head.
oh, dear God.
So the vet said, there's nothing I could really do. She's really malnourished. And Emma had 2 big dogs at the time. And she called me. She said, look, I'm going to send this dog to LA. Could you pick up this dog at the airport and keep it until it gets stronger? And then I'll take it back. Needless to say, I had the dog for 15 years. Okay. So it turned out to be the greatest dog, the smartest dog. But anyway, right when I had the dog, she still couldn't walk very well. And I'm on the beach in Malibu holding the dog in my arms, little dog. I only had it for about a day or 2. And my next door neighbor was on a soap opera, Cheryl and Walter. She was on General Hospital.
Yes.
And she comes walking down the beach with this other actor, with an actor who I had never met. And she said, oh my God, she's petting the dog. And she says, what's the dog's name? And I said, I don't know. I don't have a name. She looks like a little deer. I want something French because she's from New Orleans. And this guy that was with Sherilyn says, well, in France, they say ma biche for a baby means my dear, but it also means deer like the animal. So I named my dog Biche. This is 1989.
Oh.
Now, fast forward to Chicago PD. I'm on the set the very first day. And Emma sends me an article. Now, this is literally 28 years later. 28 years later. She sends me an article that she just wrote for a magazine in London, in England, and it's about telling the whole dog story. And she ends the story with, I never understood why Ray named the dog Biche. That's what she wrote. That's how the article ends. Let me tell you who the actor was that named the dog. It was Jason. And I had never seen him again until I'm reading the article from Emma, and he's standing right next to me on the set. And I said, Jason, you won't believe this. And he remembered naming the dog. We had never seen each other again in 28 years until that moment. So he named my dog that I had for 15 years.
I adopted a cat in Las Vegas. Remember, I was out in Las Vegas for 10 years as a performer, and I adopted this cat that I thought was a stray. Found out later somebody owned it, but they didn't really want it anymore and let it go. And Kenny Rogers is over the house. I just come off the road with him. And the late Kenny Rogers, you talk about a great guy to work with.
That's good to hear.
He paid me before I even left Las Vegas.
Wow.
He paid me for the 2 weeks or whatever it was. Anyway, so we're sitting there, we're watching a football game because he loves football. He loved football. And Furball, which was originally became his name, he's on the carpet. It's cold. It's like January. We're watching one of the playoff games, and he's rolled up like a fur because he just came in from outside and he wants to get warm. And Kenny goes, have you gotten a name for him yet? I said, no, everything I try, it goes nowhere. He doesn't get excited. He said, well, to me, he looks like a fur ball, and his ears popped up, and that was the end of that.
That's good. So we both had famous people name our animals.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I had to put Furball down about a year ago, but I do have Princess over here sitting at the in the commander's chair. But when you do work with people like Jason and you work with other actors, and I don't know much about the cast from Chicago PD. I think most of them are New York actors to begin with, a good portion of them. Do you know the difference between someone that you're working with who has a good theater background, which you do, as compared to somebody who just took some acting classes and they're good looking and they got a break and they're now working?
I'm going to stop you right now.
Okay.
Instantly, I could tell the difference. You know,
okay.
Just the way they approach the script, just the way they could handle the language, just the way they could know a 3-page scene with no problem. Yeah, you know, people that are trained, that have really worked, you know, that aren't that didn't just fall into, you know, it's funny because you were talking about, when we were talking about the different feelings, and I said NCIS with Mark Harmon was the most beautiful. I did another show where I walked into the trailer, and this is because this is going to relate to what you just asked me, and it felt, okay, this is not going to be a good time. This, you know, I could pick it up because the makeup people were tense, and I heard one say, "What kind of mood is he in today?" And they said, "Oh, nah, it's not going to be a good one." Oh, great. So then this person comes in, sticks their head in a bowl of ice, comes up and says, "Yeah, I'll be back in 5 minutes," walks out, comes back again. And I want to tell you, he wasn't the number one on the call sheet. He wasn't even the lead character. He was like fifth banana, maybe in his 20s. This was his first big job.
Oh, geez.
And I thought, this is not good. And I'm sitting with him shooting that scene, you know, the I knew him, but I didn't kill him scene. And we're rehearsing it. And he's on his phone while we're rehearsing, giving his lines, never looks at me, never says good morning, how you doing, welcome to the show.
Are you kidding me?
No, none of that. So while we're shooting the scene, we're rehearsing, this is just rehearsal. The sound guy comes over to wire me up and he whispers, I just want to tell you, I loved you on The Sopranos. That's my favorite show. You were so good. And this guy pops up and all of a sudden he says, oh, hi, how you doing? I was like, you know what?
I know.
Until you heard that I was on The Sopranos, you weren't even going to just say hello, good morning to a guest actor on your show. You know, then you work with somebody like Jimmy Smith. So, you know, they make you feel, when you walk on a set with Jimmy Smith, you know, from NYPD Blue, and I did that. And I also was on LA Law with him for a while. It's like, okay, we're in this together. Let's work on this scene.
Exactly.
We're two actors working it out. And well, that's Bochco. That goes back to the Bochco.
Yeah, that's the way we were taught.
Yeah. And I always go back to that. Guest star. Guest. They're a guest in your home. Treat them like fucking guest, you know?
Yes. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And Steven instilled that in everybody. And well, I'm not going to get into it for these people because they're going to hear it 100 times. But you and I both can credit Steven for a lot. That's how I got on LA Law. Or not LA Law, but I got on Hill Street Blues. And then from there, I got St. Elsewhere, which I worked with one of my heroes, Daniels, you know, Robert Daniel. Yeah. And I said to him, after I did a whole week on that show, and I even came back on days I wasn't supposed to be on set. Wow. Because I wanted to watch Bill Daniels work. And I wanted to watch all the other characters work. I walked out with him Thursday afternoon around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And we've been there since 5 o'clock in the morning, which is not unusual, as you know.
Not at all. No.
And I said to him, I said, Mr. Daniels, you know how I feel about 1776, the musical you did. I want to tell you, I learned more from you watching you this week. Ken Howard laughed at this when I told him. And he said, and he says, I said, I've learned more from you watching you. And I worked with you in 2 scenes than I did in all the acting teachers that I've had in years. And he looked at me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he went, of course you did, my boy. You were working with the best.
That's a line I use with the young actors now when I see them.
You know, I have a friend of mine who's been on Young and the Restless forever. And we were talking about young actors coming on the soaps. And he said, he said 20 years ago, you could get a young actor that wasn't that well trained and they're getting notches on their belt. He said, not today. He said, they've got to hit the ground running. And if their memorization skills aren't there, they're out the window real quick. Oh,
especially with the soap. They do like that. They shoot 50 pages a day. Yeah.
Well, Will Schreiner's brother, Ken, I think is going to come on, and he played Scotty Baldwin on General Hospital forever. And Scott and Ken will tell you that if you can't memorize anything, like on a TV set, you do what, maybe 1.5 pages a day?
Yeah. But no, yeah, maybe usually a little bit more, but yeah, there are actors that work different ways. There are actors that'll just, when they shoot like this, there are actors that'll just keep doing the same line over and over, and then they put it together in the editing room. You don't get a sense of the full scene, and those are painful if you're the actor on the other side of it. But
yeah, I mean, that's what I love about voiceovers. You can go into the studio, and if you're doing a game or you're doing something like that, like Robin Williams when he did the Aladdin, it just was like boom, boom, boom. He was riffing most of the time. And my background with the Groundlings, I love to riff.
Right.
I just love that stuff. Ray, you've worked with some of the big people in town, and my producer Tommy has a question for you. Tommy, I know you want to talk to about Mr. Galfini, so you go ahead.
Yeah, let me just pop in for a second.
All right, Tommy boy.
You can't see him, thank God.
Yeah, you can.
No, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Ray. Very nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, Tommy.
Listen, I've been a fan since the night court days. I love the practice. LA Law, obviously. Little Carmine was one of my favorite characters on The Sopranos, possibly after Big Pussy, of course.
Everybody loved Pussy, that's for sure.
That's
yo, you know what I mean?
Of course. I actually met James Gandolfini at one of the best burger places in South Florida called La Tub up in Hollywood.
Oh, yes. Right near Capone's.
Nice right near
Tommy, that's right near Capone's.
It's right next to Capone's.
Right.
So one of the things is I see that you get typecast a lot as either a gangster, detective, street cop. How difficult is it in Hollywood to break free of that kind of typeset?
Well, it's very interesting. Being on The Sopranos was like a double-edged sword. I had been working for, I don't know, 25 years before The Sopranos. And I always played lawyers, cops, doctors, never once played a mobster until The Sopranos. The Sopranos ended, and it was like, well, there's a part for this lawyer, and they tell my agent, yeah, but he's got that whole mobster thing going on. Well, there's a part of a cop, yeah, but he's got that whole mobster thing. 25 years of never playing a mobster. I played a mobster once. It took me a long time. I got work because of that, but I actually lost a lot of work. Right after The Sopranos, I lost a lot of work because they thought, well, they didn't even want to hire us as mobsters because they think we're doing The Sopranos. And then they didn't want to hire me as a cop or a lawyer because, he's too mobstery.
Yeah.
It took me, so for a while there, then I started getting offered some mob parts on TV shows, and stupid. It's like, well, no, the writing's not going to be as good as The Sopranos. So I turned down a few mobster parts, but if there was something interesting, like an NCIS I talked about, I played a mobster, but that was, good writing and, like I said, a beautiful set, and I've done it a few times. But no,
Dick Wolf has a great production crew, no matter what show you're on with him.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Well, I've done all the Law and Orders in Chicago. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I know everything is halted production and stuff out there, but can you talk about some of the new stuff that you got coming out, like Sonny Boy, The Mooch?
Yeah. Well, those are kind of small little things. Some I just did as favors. Sonny Boy, I don't know if it's ever going to get off the ground. It was a nice script. It was an interesting character. Yeah. I don't know what'll happen with that. I did, what's interesting, I did kind of break out a little, and they happened in unusual ways. I'm in the movie Bad Education with Hugh Jackman and Allison Janney. I think Hugh Jackman won the Emmy for it. Ray Romano was in it. And that we shot that maybe a year and a half ago. And I play a character that is very different from anything I ever played. And I didn't even audition for it. The director, who was 27 years old, saw me in Transparent, where I played a very unusual character. And he thought, no, I want you in this movie playing Allison Janney's husband, a suburban husband, car dealer, not a mobster, not, completely different. And it was so refreshing for a director to see me as an actor and not say, well, wait, he played a mobster on The Sopranos. I need a mobster in this. He's a good mobster. Or, so he just saw me as an actor and found this role. And it wasn't a big part, but it was quite rewarding to do it.
Isn't that fun, though? Isn't that fun? Hold on a second, Tommy. Isn't that fun when an actor who gets typecast and suddenly a younger performer sees you as an actor? I mean, we're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes, because I want to talk about producers and directors you work with who work well with actors and those that do not. So, Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ray, I thoroughly enjoy your work. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm going to let Gary finish this off and get down to the Hollywood business.
All right, cool.
Really nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Same here, Tommy.
He's wearing my favorite university on his patch there, the U, where I went to
school.
I
couldn't really see it. It looked like a Packers jacket.
No, it's not Packers. Well, we're green. We have the color green.
It looked like, come on, it did. I'm looking. I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually looking for something to show you, but go ahead.
Go ahead. You have worked, I've heard many actors talk about. Oh, yeah. That was you?
That's me as Vince Lombardi.
Wow.
You can't see. I don't know if you can see the teeth.
No. I can see it. Move it over a little bit to your left.
You see the teeth?
Yes. Boy, that is something, because that was Lombardi. I met Lombardi through my brother Michael.
Wow.
And I met Lombardi. This was a couple of years before he died. He was now the head coach of the Washington football team.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, "Are you going to grow up to be a football player like your brother?" And I said, "No, I got more sense than that." And he just laughed like hell, because his sense of humor.
One of my first nights playing Lombardi, the play starts with Lombardi coming out and yelling at the audience as if they're the team. So the audience are your team, and you come out yelling at them. I mean, just berating them as he would do. And I look out, and who's sitting in the first row that I'm yelling at? Lombardi's daughter.
You're kidding.
No, and I recognized her because I had watched the documentary that she appears in on his. I had just watched it. And it was like, and I'm yelling, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Okay.
And she's sitting next to Dan Lauria, who's one of my oldest friends, who created the role on Broadway. So
Yes,
I'm
he
yelling
did.
at them, and it's Dan Lauria who played Lombardi, and one of my first performances, and Vince Lombardi's daughter sitting next to him, and I'm yelling at them for the opening of the play. So that was
Did she come backstage to see you afterwards?
Oh yeah. No, she was lovely. She was very warm and very effusive in her praise of Mike.
I remember Dan Lauria doing, and I've, for those of you that don't know, Dan Lauria is a character actor, superb character actor, seen all over the place. I remember when he was making the rounds on the shows for doing a Lombardi, and I thought, boy, if there ever was a guy perfect for that part to a certain extent, the way he looks and everything, it's Dan Lauria, and I know he could pull it off. I know
we should tell people he played the father on the Wonder Years. That's what most.
Yeah. Oh yes. Okay. There you go. I forget about that because the kid wore that Jets jacket, and the Jets are still bugging me to this very day. So when you get on the set and you're working with a certain director, and because either through what maybe Mindy has told you or other actors have told you or what you found out, this is an actor's director. And I'll have you explain that in a minute. And then you work with directors who are like, a
traffic cop. Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. Talk about the differences and how it makes your job easier when you have an actor's director compared to someone who isn't.
I'll give you a good example. I remember I did an episode of, this was when The Sopranos was kind of first starting. Way before I was on it, I did an episode of Touched by an Angel, shooting in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, Touched by an Angel was a very specific show. It was very proper. And I remember I was shooting it, and the crew starts saying, Tim is coming in. Tim is coming in. And I say, who's Tim? He says, oh, he's our favorite director. He's directing the next episode, so he's coming in to prep the next episode. Touched by an Angel. So Tim. So then I check, Tim who? Tim Van Patten. I said, Tim Van Patten? He directs some of the best Sopranos episodes, and here he's directing Touched by an Angel. But what I noticed is the crew just couldn't wait for him to get there. Yeah. Then I ended up working with him on The Sopranos when I was finally on, and I completely understood it because he's an actor's director, he's a crew's director, he's the writer's director, he's the producer's director. He's just a good director. And, he'll give you a little note, not much. He stays out of your way. He just captures what you're doing. Yeah. And, if you watch some of the episodes he directed on that show, like he directed that big fight scene between Jim and Edie, that big, very physical.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he also directed the scene with Ralphie, where Tony kills Ralphie. Those are very intense scenes. And he just knows when to just back off and let the actors do their thing. And he knows when to come in and say, give it a little thing. Yeah, the difference is night and day. And then there are other directors who will just say, on this line, stand here, on this line, stand there, and this line, take a sip of water. They're basically traffic. So then you just do, in TV, it's so fast. And a lot of times in TV, the directors really don't have that much of a free hand anyway, unless it's a show like The Sopranos, where they hire very specific directors. So there's not always a lot of leeway there. And plus, if you're a regular on the show, you already know your character. So it's not like a director that's just coming on is going to tell you, well, your character wouldn't say that. It's like, well, my character. I understand. I can't count on one hand any kind of difficulty I've ever had with any kind of director. I'm still of the mind, like, they want me. Okay, I'm just gonna be prepared, and I'm gonna do what they want because I want them to like me. I still have that, like, I'm just starting out feeling. It's never left me. So I aim to please, and unless a director gives me a note that I know in my heart is completely wrong, right? I'll always try what they want to do. So it's, and I'll give it my all, even if I don't agree with it. They want me to try something a certain way, I'll try it, and I'm not going to hold back to try to sabotage it. I'll do it, and then they'll know it works, or I'll learn that it works, or they'll learn it doesn't work, and then we move on.
I learned that at the Groundlings. I mean, because the Groundlings is a great school for improv, And if it wasn't for Robin Williams, I never would have went there to begin with.
Mhm.
Because I auditioned so many times. But Will Schreiner directed me in a couple of things that I did while I was out there when he was starting out. And I turned to Will one night and I said, you know, you're great to work for. He said, Gary, I hire you because you're an actor. I want you to act. I want you to give it something. I don't want you to just go through the words and go through. I want emotion. I want, you know, and he said, you have that. He said, and that comes from where you've been. You know, if I do a movie, if I don't act anymore, but if I did a war movie, I've been in a war.
Right.
I've been in a war. I know what it's like, emotional. We got about 5 minutes left to go here in the program. And I want to thank everybody. By the way, Bucket List, thank you so much. This person just said, love the show. Hope it goes on a lot. I will. I promise you every Friday at 5 p.m. right here on Community C News Network. It'll be Main Street with me, Gary Allen, and sometimes Andy Corge may drop in too. With the 5 minutes we got left, how much has Ray Abruzzo changed over the years, not only as an actor, but as a man? And, you know, you're going to come back, I hope, because we're going to talk about your animal rights stuff, but and your political activism. But how much has Ray Abruzzo changed with the work you've done and the people you've met? And who has changed you the most? Or the best advice you got?
I don't think I don't really think I've changed that much. You know, like I said, I still feel like I'm still starting out in a sense. You know, every time they say that's a rap for Ray Abruzzo, I hear that's a career rap for Ray Abruzzo. He'll never work again.
Every actor thinks that, though.
Right. So that's the way I feel. And so in a sense, I still have that sense of hunger that I had, you know, 40 years ago or more when I first started. So I haven't, certain roles change you, you know, it's rare that happens, but when I was on Transparent, I don't know if you watched that show, I played a very unique character, and being on that set, I was always pretty open and pretty liberal and you know, accepting of people. And then I was on that show, and I remember driving home after that, and I said to my first day, I was driving home and I thought, you know what? I think you're a little better person today than you were on your way to work. It was just, so hopefully I'm a better person. You know, the things that have changed, you know, I think, well, I've always been an animal guy. So, but now I'm just more into it. I don't think I've changed that much.
All I know is
I just get better looking, it seems. I think that's the only.
Oh, gee, humility coming from an Italian fellow.
Did I say that?
Yes.
You know,
all I know is, hey, listen, all I know is I love you. You know that. You've been a dear friend to me. You come on all my shows. I'm going to have you back. I just love talking to you because I love talking show business. If you don't love this business, you have no business in it. The best advice I ever got was, if there's something else in your life you want to do, go do it, because you're not going to do that.
Somebody asked me last night, we were talking about being acting teachers, because sometimes I'll coach actors and they say, what's the thing you tell them? And it's like, if there's something else you could do, do it. Because I always thought, if you could be talked out of this, you shouldn't be in it.
Doing it. No.
Right.
And it's the same thing being a talk show host. Thank God I have all that background before, and I've had great relationships of people that will be coming on. But Ray, I want to thank you so much for coming on my first show. God bless you. Your Palatius Palace. You are the best, my dear friend. And I hate you because you're so good looking.
It's a curse.
I love you. Give my best to everybody. Would you please?
I will.
And I'll talk to you on the phone. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Take care. What is his name again? Alan what? Who is it? Alan?
Steve Allen.
Yeah, Steve Allen. Oh, I like Steve Allen. Oh.
Steve Allen. Take care, my friend. All right. All right. That was it for Main Street. I just want to thank everybody for joining us here on this Friday. Join us next Friday. Jeffrey Mark is going to be back. Is going to be on with us, next week. He's a historian about Hollywood. He knows every actor that pretty much has been in Hollywood. He knows the backstories. Networks call him. Tune in next week to Main Street at 5 p.m. right here on the Miami C News Network. Until then, thank you, Ray Abruzzo. Thank you all very much. God bless you. And until next week, please take care of yourselves and each other.